Hi guys, this is Carl from Proper Comics. There's been quite a bit of negativity floating around in the industry of late, in case you haven't noticed. And the done thing seems to be is to make a video pointing out how bad things have become, and this is fair enough. But I thought I'd go the other way and be a bit more positive and do a video on comics I actually like and the ones that have inspired me in the creation of my own stories. This is, of course, just my own opinion on what's good. Most people will think it's just a lot of old hat, but others may find it interesting and something to get excited about in today's waning industry. So let's get cracking. I'd like to tell you about this collection of stories by the writer Peter Milligan and artist Brendan McCarthy. It was collected um, in this volume by Dark Horse in 2013, and I was quite surprised to find that no one had actually reviewed or made a video reviewing this yet. So I thought I'd get on and do one, since it's most deserving and essential reading for anyone into proper British comics. A bit of background: Peter Milligan is a formidable writer with a long bibliography, including many well-known titles that if I were to run through them, this would be an unbearably long video. The list is as long as my arm, but anyway, the one that puts him on the map for me is his reimagining of Shade the Changing Man in the 90s, published by DC and their Vertigo imprint. He's since worked on many major titles and is pretty much a household comic book name. Uh, Brendan McCarthy is an old 2000 AD stalwart who has also made quite a career for himself outside of comics. Most recently, he's done the concept arts and written the plot, the script for Mad Max Fury Road. He's also done work on other movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the live-action movie from the 90s, Highlander, Lost in Space, and loads of others. So, we're talking about two creative heavyweights, and they've made some pretty amazing work. So, these guys collaborated on a bunch of stories between 1983 and 1994, and these were published by Eclipse, Vanguard, 2000 AD, Tundra, and as I mentioned, DC Comics with Shade. And yeah, on Shade, he only drew the covers. He didn't actually draw any of the interior art for the most part. I think he might have done one or two issues, but that's it. But that's not included in this volume substantially. Most of those comics are collected here. So the stories range from offbeat superhero adventures to weird postmodern psychedelic mashups, cult-inspired head trips, and stories that feature hard-hitting social commentary. In every case, it's clear that these guys really riff off one another and create art that is just bigger than the sum of the whole. I mean, it's just really exciting stuff. Um, so let's have a look through here. So, paging through, we have Paradox, which is a very human superhero. This is something that was quite novel for the time. A self-centered, egotistical guy who gets superpowers. There are about 3 stories about him collected in here. There's strong parallels between him and another character called Zenith, written by Grant Morrison and published by 2000 AD. He came first, and a lot of people think that a lot was borrowed in the creation of Zenith. The artwork is really phenomenal. I mean, look at that traditional inking with markers, colors, no digital coloring or anything in there. Really cool. Really good work. And if we skip ahead, sorry, I need to point this out. Tank Girl's rocket tits, those checkered patterns. You can clearly see where those ideas come from. Jeremy Hewlett was obviously a fan of Brendan McCarthy's work. Okay, so let's skip ahead. And here we have Rogue and Gosh. I believe this was originally published in Revolver and then later collected in a volume from Vertigo, and has now been collected here again. So Rogan Gosh, it's this weird mashup of Indian food, Vendatic mysticism. He's basically a Karmanaut, right? If you know about Indian mysticism, everything revolves around that. A Karmanaut who basically gets the curse of Shiva thrust upon him, and so he goes through an adventure which spans a series of parallel, seemingly interlocked storylines that kind of converge in the end. It's like it's a really strange David Lynchian kind of story, which at first doesn't appear to make all that much sense, but you keep going back to it. It's extremely creative. A lot of people, look at that artwork. Look at that, it's amazing. A lot of people find it very kind of intimidating. They like things that they can readily understand, and some people just like to ponder, like myself. Right, let's skip ahead again. I want to get a copyright strike. Let's page through here. Try and avoid the last page. Freakwave. This is basically Mad Max at sea, and you can see there a lot was borrowed in the creation of the Kevin Costner movie. What was it? Waterworld. It's extremely exciting. It's quite wordy, but I find that it casts a kind of spell on the reader once you get into it. It just kind of immerses you, which is kind of what counts. Right, now and there are loads of little stories in here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the other one that I really want to say something about is Skin. This one's The Black Sheep. It's about a British skinhead suffering the side effects of thalidomide taken by his mother in pregnancy. Now, for those of you who don't know, thalidomide was a drug marketed to treat morning sickness, but there were no warnings of the possible side effects, which include severe physical defects, like you will see here. The protagonist, Martin Atchett, has deformed arms. And Skin is social commentary on corporate greed and lack of responsibility. It's just this ugly, crass story. It's not really there to charm or really to amuse you, but to provoke a sense of righteous indignation, and ultimately celebrates in the ultimate justice for the protagonist. These, I believe that Brennan didn't. He didn't paint these. He did the pencils, and then another artist called Carol Swain. She did the paintings over that, and you can see that it's, the style is much looser and chaotic than what it would have been if Brennan had done this. And Carol lends a certain grit which suits the story perfectly. Publishers were very reluctant to publish this. This is the second printing as far as I'm aware. All in all, Skin is my favourite story in the collection. There are other stories too, like I said, there's Swifty's Return, Merc and the Mystic, and just so many others, all collected in here. Even if the stories don't impress you, which they will, the lush art is reason enough on its own to get this volume. When it comes to comics, I have an aversion to digital arts. It's all traditional, either painted with what looks like acrylics, or traditionally inked and coloured with markers. I love this era of fully painted comics. If you're into this stuff too, then this volume will not disappoint. Okay, yeah, and say something about the actual book. Production is hardcover, obviously, and it's oversized. So your typical American comic book would be about yeah, it's quite a bit bigger, which so it's like a coffee table book, and it's really not that expensive. I can't remember how much I paid for this, but for what you get, it's definitely bang for your buck. It's a heavy glossy stock, which really reproduces the range of colors quite nicely. This book comes highly recommended. Please let me know what you thought of this video and whether you would like me to post more of these in this vein. If you liked it, please remember to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications when I upload the next one. Cool guys, take care. Till next time. Bye.